It's the run-up to the night shift. Border guards in southern Moldova prepare to head out to survey a section of their country's sprawling border with Ukraine and watch for those who try to make a run for it in the middle of the night. We were invited along on a border patrol. We left the remote rural village and headed into the pitch black, the headlights illuminating the ruts in the road ahead and the figures searching the night for those on the move.
Every night, every day, you can find such illegal migrants.
By that, Vladimir Kurudimov means Ukrainian men who are banned from leaving their own country because of the war and try to sneak out through the cover of darkness.
And after 500 meters is the border Ukraine.
So
Ukraine border.
Where is it exactly from
Where Ukraine border.
Right.
Sometimes Kurudimov sees the men even before they leave Ukraine.
If he's approaching to the border, I understand that in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, he probably will enter in our territory.
This drone is being used along a small part of the 1,200-kilometer-long border that Moldova shares with Ukraine. Nearby, thermal cameras allow officers to survey the surrounding fields and dirt roads. On one January night, this is what the cameras saw, what turned out to be 5 Ukrainian men and 1 Moldovan, who they allegedly paid $50,000 to help with the journey. They are among the more than 15,000 men who crossed illegally out of Ukraine and into Moldova since Russia launched its full-scale invasion. In a small community about 30 kilometers from the border with Ukraine, we meet Sergei and Vladimir, who crossed in January. They ran for hours across muddy fields in the frigid night, wearing trainers and track pants. Like others, they decided to leave Ukraine before they could get swept up into a war they don't want to fight in. And like others, they fear repercussions and asked us not to show their faces and only use their first names.
Every man need to have a choice, because if you want to go into war, defend your country, okay, it's your choice. But
what do you think of the fact that Ukraine says it needs more soldiers or it could lose?
In every war, lose everybody. You need to talk. You need to communication. You have the mind. You have to decide peaceful.
Do you feel guilty at all for leaving?
Ну, я себя не чувствую виноватым. Я сохранил свою жизнь. Ну, если бы я пошел туда, я не хочу, чтобы я вернулся домой в гробу, чтобы моя или коллег.
Ukraine declared martial law in the hours after Russia launched its attack, banning most men between the ages of 18 and 60 from leaving the country. It's not clear how many men have made it out of Ukraine illegally, but more than 25,000 have crossed through fields, forests, and rivers, what authorities call the Green Border, dividing Ukraine from Slovakia, Hungary, Romania, and Moldova. And in Ukraine, where the rallying cry is glory to the heroes, authorities have little sympathy for those who dodged the draft. In this video, border guards warn that the men could drown while trying to run from a country that their peers are determined to stay and fight for. Officials say 19 people have died so far crossing the Tisa River between Ukraine and Romania. This man tried to hike to Romania through the mountains but got lost for 2 days. He called the authorities for help, and Ukraine's border guards found him. Since the war began, Ukraine says it stopped more than 18,000 from trying to leave illegally. Officials say nearly 8,000 others were detained when presenting fake documents at checkpoints. Those caught could face fines and even years in jail.
We found a number of groups using the online messaging platform Telegram to advertise and arrange for illegal crossings out of Ukraine. One user told me that the trip would cost the equivalent of 4,400 Canadian dollars, but that men would not be required to pay until they actually enter the European Union. Another user said that he specializes in forging paperwork and could create a disability certificate for about 6,700 Canadian. That certificate would be shown to the border guards in Ukraine, and that men would be able to leave the country with it because it would show that they are exempt from service.
For those men who do make it out, the first step is often claiming asylum, and immigration officials here say they're seeing more and more men every day. They're still visibly nervous. Most don't want to speak with us. They're fingerprinted and their details are put in a database. Immigration officials try to assure them that that information won't be shared with the authorities back home.
I came to Moldova because it's very dangerous in Ukraine.
Vitaly would only give us his first name. Like most here, he wants to go to the EU. He made the journey here in January on foot with the help of Google Maps, after months of agonizing about the decision to leave.
Тяжелое, но я больше года думал, конечно. Не решался долго. Ну и страх, это ж небезопасно пересекать, но все это делать тоже. Как бы, ну и надеялся на то, что может, закончится это.
But there is no end in sight. Tens of thousands have already been killed. Those still battling on the front lines are exhausted. Ukraine's military leaders say they need as many as 500,000 more soldiers. On social media, videos emerged of the military recruiting in gyms and other public spaces.
Вначале было больше добровольцев, сейчас уже добровольно людей меньше хочет идти. Ну, потому что я опасался того, что заберут на войну. Сейчас стали очень, всех забирать, и тяжело стало с этим. Боялся.
The government is now mulling a mobilization bill which could include lowering the conscription age from 27 to 25 and sanction those who have evaded service.
Many people are in panic because of this, because of this pressure. But it's not, let's say, obligatory, that you will be immediately in the front line or...
Dmytro Truzhansky says he could be conscripted any time, but he isn't going anywhere. In fact, he was living abroad when the war began, and he says he chose to return.
Martial law is the only way, rational way, when you have the real war. So a lot of people don't want to be mobilized, like me. Yes. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that these people want to escape or these people want to give up.
But Sergei and Vladimir wanted out and have no regrets.
And what do you think of the fact that the government says men have to stay in Ukraine in order to defend the country?
Ну, я считаю, что это бред, потому что, смотрите, человек, если не хочет воевать, от него там пользы не будет. Он пойдет, как вам правильно сказать, он идет тупо на убой.
They both aren't sure what they'll do next, but say they're getting messages from friends now asking for advice.
They ask me how to do this. Help us, help us.
But he says there isn't much he can suggest. He believes luck determines just who's able to make it out in the middle of the night.